Hello, our lesson for today will be basic Iupac nomenclature for organic compounds. We will start with linear hydrocarbons. The Iupac name for alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes is composed of two parts: a prefix indicating the amount of carbon atoms and a suffix indicating the type of bond present, single, double, or triple. Common prefixes depending on the number of carbon atoms is meth for compounds with one carbon atom, eth for two carbon atoms, prop for three carbon atoms, and so on for the rest of the compounds. Suffixes used are ane for only single bonds, ene for when we have at least one double bond, and ine for when we have at least one triple bond. For example, we have methane with one carbon atom, ethane with two carbon atoms and only single bonds present, propane with three carbon atoms and only single bonds present, butane with four carbon atoms, pentane with five, and hexane with six. When a double or triple bond is present, it is required to indicate its location using a number preceding the main chain. Commas are used between numbers, and hyphens are used between letters and numbers. We will continue with branched hydrocarbons. An alkyl group is a substituent attached to a main chain. Its name is derived from the alkane with the same amount of carbon atoms but changing the suffix ane to the suffix -eel. For example, meth with one carbon atom and the suffix -eel. Ethyl, two carbon atoms. Propyl, three carbon atoms, and so on. Notice that we have an extra bond to which the alkyl group is going to bond to the main chain. As the number of carbon atoms increase, there are different arrangements that can be found for different alkyl groups. For example, propyl can be found in a linear structure or in an isostructure, in which there is one end splitting at the very end of the compound. Then we also have butyl with four carbon atoms. We can have the linear structure. We can have the sex structure, in which the carbon attached to the main chain is a secondary one. Then we have the third butyl, in which the carbon attaching to the main chain is a tertiary carbon. And then we have the isostructure, in which the split end is present. There are three main steps when naming a branched hydrocarbon. Number one, we're going to select the longest continuous chain for each compound. In this case, this is the only chain that we have. Number two, we're going to number the chain from right to left or left to right. For alkanes, we're going to start on the side closest to the first branch. So this branch is closest to the right side, so we're going to start numbering from right to left. For alkenes and alkynes, we're going to start on the side closest to the first double or triple bond. And the example that we have on the bottom, the double bond is closest to the left, so we're going to number the chain from left to right. And number three, we name the branches. So we have this branch over here. The name for this compound would be 2-methyl butane. And for the second compound, we would have a 1-propene. Now, if we have more than one alkyl group per branch, in this case we would have two branches, we should name them in alphabetical order. So in this case we have a methyl over here, and we have an ethyl group over here. For this compound, we will start counting from right to left. So we would have a 3-ethyl 2-methyl pentane. Now, if we have more than one alkyl group of the same kind, we should use prefixes di, tri, tetra, etc. So in this case, we will start counting from right to left again. We should name the branches in alphabetical order, so we start with the ethyl groups, then the methyl groups. So we would have a 3,5 diethyl, 2,2,4 trimethyl heptane. The last part is nomenclature for other functional groups. The Iupac name for other functional group is composed of 3 parts: a prefix indicating the amount of carbon atoms, an infix indicating the type of bond present, single, double, or triple, and a suffix indicating the functional group. Some common suffixes for some functional groups are presented on this chart. It is necessary to indicate the position of the functional groups using numbers. When the main functional group is a terminal group, for example, carboxylic acids and aldehydes, there is no need to number it. This is because these two functional groups can only exist at the end of a chain, so they will always be carbon number 1. Okay, so if we follow the steps into naming the compounds, for the first example, we have our longest continuous chain over here. We're going to start numbering from left to right because the functional group is closest to the right. So if we follow the rules into naming these compounds, we're going to select our longest continuous chain over here. We're going to number this chain from right to left because the functional group is closest to the right. We have a branch on carbon number 2. It's a methyl group. So we would write 2-methyl, which are the branches, then but for 4 carbon atoms, and because we only have single bonds, and al because this compound is an aldehyde. For the second example, we have our longest continuous chain over here. We would start counting from either side because the functional group is in the middle. So it's on carbon number 2. We have 3 carbon atoms, only single bonds, and the functional group for alcohols. So finally, we have a general formula for naming other functional groups other than hydrocarbons. First, we're going to write the halogens in alphabetical order. Then we continue with the different branches. We have the regular alkyls, we have the isoalkyls, sec alkyls, third alkyls, etc. Then we have the main chain, including the number of carbon atoms and the type of bond. And finally, the functional group to indicate what type of compound we're talking about. That was everything for today. Hopefully this will be helpful for you.